Hello again. Please join me once again in welcoming Alanis Obomsawin for the discussion. And welcome to everyone joining us on the live stream. Thank you very much. Alanis.
It's nice to see children, isn't it? I had Christmas at Moose Factory is the first 16mm film I made. And the photographs you saw previously, they're from an educational kit in Lillooet, BC, with the interior Salish people. And Manouan, also an educational kit there, here, not here, where am I? I mean, Ontario, in Quebec. And to do those things, it was like so important to us, because finally we had the voice of children in the classroom, the voice of their parents or of a nation, and telling their own story.
I mean, they're so beautiful to see. One of the reasons, I chose particularly these films is wanting to see these on the big screen. I mean, so many of them are I think, rarely seen on the large screen, and perhaps haven't been presented in a number of years. What was it like for you watching them here today?
Well, it's such an honor, because when I did the educational kit, it never came to a festival or to any theater. You know, it was for the teachers, and they had these little, we were working with slides and photograph. And they, every classroom had this small projector. And what we would do at the National Film Board, we would choose the images we need to tell a certain story. Then you'd go to the animation camera, and the photographer there would shoot all the images as they are classified, and it would come to a strip of 35mm. And this is why they used to call them film strip. And this strip, you would put it in this small projector, and over here you had a long playing record. And the sound came on a record. And when I first began to work there at the National Film Board, the system was the teacher would ask a little girl, go sit next to the projector. And the record, he would say, there were 12 chiefs here. And the child would move the frame by hand to change the image. And it took me a long time to make this, because I was learning the trade and everything. By the time I was finished, because I was always working in 3 languages, they had progressed. There was a new system. So the same projector, and the record would say, there were 12 chiefs here, boing! And the boing would make the frame change. And I thought, oh my God, when I go back to the community with this, they'll say, Alanis is retarded. This boing after each word to make the thing change. But over the years, the film board transferred it to those DVDs. So you could get the whole system and play it at home and see the images, not moving, but, like you saw now. It was a lot of fun.
Do you know, I think what's so extraordinary for me when, a number of years ago when I was going back to revisit your catalog of films, and particularly looking at the films from the 1970s and early 1980s, and seeing through your lens Indigenous people from that time who were so rarely portrayed on screen by other Indigenous people. My first sense is that I was looking into some kind of alternate universe, because I'd never seen such a thing before. But what a gift to have those films on screen.
We were so happy. We were like children. And one time, when one of the first one I did was in Manouan, and I had gone to Indian Affairs and fighting to get money, because I had to go and collect money, and then the film board would match what I would get, and took some time. And then you work, and then you need more money to continue the project, and it was a really very long process. So the director at the time of education at Indian Affairs, I had asked to meet him to ask for money. So when I arrived there, he wasn't there, so I was furious. So his assistant said, "Oh, don't worry, Alanis. He told me I'm going to help you. I'm going to do his job. And what do you want?" So I said, "I want him here." So I'm sort of having a fight with him. So anyway, I said, I'm gonna come back, and they allowed me. I forget, maybe $10,000 or something like that. So then, that's not all, because they were starting to employ Indians at Indian Affairs. This was kind of slow, but it was happening. So one time I make another appointment with the director. I said, not only that, I want all the Indians who work there in a theater someplace, and we're going to show this educational kit. So I arrive, I see him sitting there. Oh, I said, I'm so relieved, I'm so glad you're here. He said, are you kidding? They told me, even if you hide in the cupboard, she's going to come and grab you. So he said, I decide to come before you come and get me. There was a lot of jokes like that, because when they saw me coming, they said, here comes trouble. Oh my God. But it took a lot of patience and fight and believing. Just the thought of hearing the children, Christmas at Moose Factory, it was for us so happy. It's the children talking. And in those days, this was the residential school that I went to, all the children, they all spoke their language. So English was a second language, and they had beautiful accents. And I have to tell you something. I sing. So one day I'm teaching this song to the children, because it was a Cree song, but from out west. Someone had taught me this song, and I was singing it, and it was a lot of fun. So it's Cree in James Bay, but the accent is different. So I teach this song to the children. They're all singing it. I don't know if anybody speaks Cree here. Anyway, it started by No Kum Gewi Bema. So, and all the kids, and they're giggling and laughing. They understand the words, although it's a little different accent. And in those days, still, most reserved, many community lost either their language, or they lost, not allowed to do ceremony, not allowed to sing. All the people had chants and syllabic song, not allowed to do that. You have to sing. They can't sing hymns. So the children are singing all this song, and they're giggling and laughing. And so they said, well, what if the teacher asked us to sing? You're supposed to sing a hymn. I said, that's a hymn. And I'll tell you what the words said. Nokum, his grandmother, Nokum Gewi Bema. Oh, I'm cold, I'm sleepy. So what do? I go and sleep with my grandmother. And I put my head on her breast, so nice and warm. I fall asleep again. So I said to the children, tell them it's a hymn. It's a hymn. And when I was working on Trick or Treaty lately, 3-4 years ago, I went back to Moose Factory, and I'm standing there, and this woman, all the white hair, she said, do you remember me? And I was looking at her, and I said, no, I'm sorry. So she comes to my ear, and she sings that song. She said, we appropriated, it's our song now. It's just so funny. And she said, you remember, you told us to say it was a hymn, eh? Imagine what we have to do to sing our beautiful songs.
It's a good reminder of something you spoke about several times, and it's that sort of generational impact or legacy of your films. You mentioned in the introduction, too, that a lot of the children here, of course, are now grandparents themselves. And I know you have some stories about meeting them over time.
Oh, yes. You hear a voice, a young man is singing. At the time, it was Archie Chichu. And he played the guitar, and he wrote songs. He wrote that song for the film, and it was really wonderful. And when I went back this time with Trick or Treaty to show to the people, I went to Moosonee also. We showed the film 3-4 times in 2 days. But the one time when I showed the film, I'm trying to remember this story. Did the Chichu family, they all in the family, every one of them played an instrument. They had a whole orchestra just in the family. It was wonderful. They're the ones that are all playing in there. And so one day, I was in the One year I said, I'm going to make a toy for all the little children. You know, they were 5 years old, and the smallest one in a dorm, and they were lonely at night. And so I would tell them stories and sing songs for them. And I decided I'm going to make a small toy for each child, the small ones. So I had lots of rags, and people gave me, you know, what they don't use, and I'm cutting a pile of rags and sewing by hand, stuffed animals. And where I had my room, I also had a photographer who had his room, and there was another room. It was a teacher that was there. He was staying in the same dorm. Well, not in the same dorm, in a room in the same floor. So Archie Chichu and his brother, they were both singers, and one of them I think was about 22, maybe, and the other maybe 24. And the doors were open. We were going in and out of everybody's room. So Archie comes with his brother, and he says to me, Alanis, I'm scared to walk home. I don't know if you ever been there. Moose Factory is a very small island. I said, you're scared to go home? He said, yes. He said, you know, I was in Doug's room, and he told me that he once lived in Toronto. And in Toronto, there are some people that are really bad. I said, really? He said, yes. Not only that, he says, they go around killing people. Well, I said, they're not here on this island, don't worry. No, he says, oh, I'm so frightened. He says, do you know what they call them? I said, no. He says, they call them the Mafia. I said, the Mafia. And his brother, who was younger, you always think the older knows more, you know. So his brother Arnold said, the Mafia. It's called the Mafia. So it stayed, you know. And over the years, when I would go in that area, North Bay, I'd go and show these films or the slides show, and I would tell this story because everybody knew Archie because he sang and he went around singing for people. So one time, I don't know where I was, in one of the area, and there was a friendship center there, and I was going to go to the friendship center and show the slides and, you know, talk like I do now. And my phone rings in my room hotel. Hello? Alanis, it's Archie. I said, Archie, I'm so happy to hear from you. Yeah. I know you're going to go to the friendship center and you're going to tell that story about me and the Mafia. I said, yes, I am. He says, well, I'll allow you to do it if you tell one on Arnold. I said, okay. He said, you think Arnold is so smart, eh? He says, well, I'll tell you something. He says, you know, when we moved away from Moose Factory, we went to one of the small towns, working for Treaty 9. I said, yes. And he said, when we got our first check, Arnold went to the bank, and the teller said, yes, sir, can I help you? And he came to cash his check. So the teller said, sir, how do you want your money? What denomination do you want your money in? And Arnold stood there and he said, gee, I don't know, Anglican, I guess. No, I had two stories. The sad part, they both passed away. And when I went to show Trick or Treating in Moose Factory, I told this story, and then I was showing the same film across to Mousini, and there's a lady that came there, she said, Alanis, I came because I knew you were going to tell that story again, because everybody knew these two young men. They were so beautiful. So, you know, we have fun.
That's great. Bless Arnold and Archie.
Yeah.
You know, Alanis, we call this film screening celebrating Alanis Obomsawin, celebrating you. And it was very much acknowledgement that you're still in the process of creation. You're still telling stories, and there's still so much more to come. 53 films to date. And from what I understand, there's quite a few more currently in development. You know, the past year and a half, a couple of years, it's been a big time of turmoil, of change for so many of us. How has it been for you in the past year and a half?
First, I must say that, you know, when we were told you work from home now, I said to myself, man, it's going to be a lonely place, working at home every day. And and I have a helper. I'm very spoiled by the film board these days. I have a wonderful person who helps me and everything with all the emails, and it just goes on. And his name is Michael Shu. I think he might be here. Are you here? Huh? He? Michael, we can't see you. Where are you? At the back. Anyway, thank you for your help. And so I decided to check my archives because I've been hiding them for years at home and some in my office. And I start going through, I tell you, I've done so many interviews that I never used, especially sound. Like I do a lot of taping of people's voice and their storytelling. One day I started listening to this. I cried from morning to midnight. I thought, oh my God, this is so sad that I didn't finish something or that I didn't do a story on this one. So now I'm working on 8 films at the same time. And this one that we're trying to finish now is on Bill Reed. And I'd forgotten that I'd done an interview with him in 1987. His voice is beautiful. And he died in 1998 and of Parkinson's disease, and he was sick for a very long time, and his voice was leaving. And so we're doing this half-hour film. It's very beautiful, and he was sleeping there. I'd forgotten about it. I also was listening to a lot of people from they call them Babine Lake now. Used to be Burns Lake in northern BC. Oh, the material there, it's just... So I'm back as if I'm starting at the film board with these old stories. They're just beautiful. And I am so happy that I've lived this long to see the big changes that's happening for education all across the country. I thank you, all of you Canadians, to support these institutions that are very important to all of us. And to know that the educational system has made a lot of changes. Those books that I told you about are gone. Thank God for that. And before we would get punished if we spoke our language. Now there is encouragement to our young people, to people of any age who want to learn the language. There is money in different institutions that are there, especially to help if you wish to study. I'm not saying that everything is perfect, but man, there's a lot of change and there's good people everywhere in this country. I really want to talk about good people. I'm tired of hearing of people who try to make you feel inferior or ugly or all those things, because I know that. And do you know where I learned the best lesson? It's when I was reading a book that Nelson Mandela wrote, the one that he wrote himself. I just want to quote a few lines, but perhaps not exactly like it is, but he describes, like when he was in jail, 30 years of jail, he describes when he would be in trouble and he would be beaten or sent to the hole, and he was a lawyer, he was a very, very smart man. And he says, when some man was beating him with whatever, a strap or whatever, a stick, he said that he always made sure to meet the eyes of that person, to reach and look in his eyes. And he says, every time you always saw a little light of something good. What a lesson, eh? No wonder they made him president of his country. It's just so beautiful. And often people say to me, oh, what can I do, what can I do? And they can't stand the fact that we have people on the street and they say, oh, I don't want to see them. I go across the street not to see, maybe a person is drunk or a person is vomiting or is sitting on the ground. I repeat what Nelson Mandela says. Meet those eyes, because it's life, and life is sacred for all people. And the person who's on the street in misery, that doesn't mean this person always is going to be there. Maybe he'll die there or she'll die there, but maybe not. And one day this person gets up and start living differently. And just that alone, someone who has nothing and is alone, lonely, and scared, just the fact that you, a person passing by, looks at that person, meaning, I respect you because you have a life. All living things need respect. Just that alone might make the day of that person, feeling, gee, you know, this person was smiling at me. So I learned from Nelson Mandela.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. We do want to take a few questions from the audience, but before that, I know one of these good people that you talk about is Senator Murray Sinclair. How did you come to meet him in this film?
Well, I've met him many times for other reasons, but when I heard it, he was receiving this prize at McGill College. I asked him if he would mind if I would tape him, filmed him, and he said it was okay. And I went to McGill and I asked those people who were organizing it, and they gave me permission. So at first I only filmed what happened. I was very disappointed, and I thought, my God, they could have chose a nice place for him to receive the prize. Here we are in a cellar, and there was a frame on the wall. I had to get an animator to take it off because it looked so bad. But it's these things people don't think about. But if you're filming, then it's another story. I would have liked to have a better background, a room where they have these rooms, that are beautiful. That was the only disappointment. But this was in 2016. So it's been a big job, but I'm so happy we did it. Yeah.
The impact has been tremendous from that work, absolutely. Yeah. We have time for some questions. It's difficult for us to see you with the lights on, so if you can just maybe raise your hand and maybe say something so we can... Oh, that helps. Thank you so much, raising the lights so much. Any questions or comments initially here from the audience? Over here. I'll repeat it for the audience here in cinema and also on live stream. So the audience member gave some thanks for sharing these films, for making these films and bringing them here today. Thank you, of course, as always. And also the question was, for the film strip films, have you ever thought about recording new audio for them?
No, I wouldn't touch it. This is exactly how it was. The audio is new in terms it's on DVDs. So you can look at a DVD and you hear the audio from the DVD and you see the same film or the same images. I would never want to change those words or those the sound. It's this, since then the children don't necessarily all speak Cree now. Like this beautiful accent that they had from speaking English as a second language is, for me, it's very beautiful, and I would never change the audio. It's the same, but it's in a different substance. It's on a DVD with the images that you saw. I could not change that. It's, oh my God. Perhaps you mean the quality of the sound. The quality of the sound, I'm the one that was doing the sound at that time, and I was taping them all the time. And it was so windy that I was so disturbed by the wind. I taped the wind in so many different ways. There are no trees. The end of the tree line there. I mean, it's subarctic country, and somebody's walking in the snow. You hear the footstep from really far, and I start taping until the person went in front, passed me, went away, and the building where they were living was really run down, and it's winter. 50, 60 below zero is very common. And I would tape the wind in all kinds of circumstances, and even under the door didn't close well, so it was windy there. By the time I got to the film board, I had so much wind tracks that they asked me if they could use it for other films, because they were seeming to, if you want the wind, it's always the same wind. So now they had a big choice. So that was really, really funny. So, but it was to document and to tape the children as they were. There was at that time a teacher, she was trying to teach them a Shakespearean play. Can you imagine? I was the only one laughing. Oh, I was in there. And she'd say to this little boy, say, I see the gold star. So the boy said, I see a gold star. No, star. Star. And they put an H for the S in all the language. And it was charming. I loved it. I don't know why she was trying to make them speak a different way. And it was just beautiful too. And I couldn't use that part because I was taping too far. I wasn't allowed on the stage. And I had a Niagara, but you have to be close or you have to have a boom, which I didn't have. But the sound was for me sacred, it was just so important. But I don't have that sound anymore.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. There was another question here. Hi.
Alanis, I wonder if you could talk just a few words about the film When All the Leaves Are Gone, and in particular about the power of dreams and the power of dreams in that film.
I'll just repeat it for the audience. So the question was if Alanis can share some words on When All the Leaves Are Gone, and in particular the power of dream.
That's a little bit difficult because it's me, it's my story, partly. And when I was very, I don't know how to call it, but I was beaten a lot. And but when I was sleeping, nobody touched me, and I had an incredible time with dreams, and always animals taking care of me. And all the animals, as many of them, I call them horses, but they look different than the horse that we know. And they were all talking to me, and so much so that if I was punished and I had to go to bed, it wasn't a problem, because I knew I had my own world. And I just tried to portray this part. And then, when I was 12 years old, my father died. And I was there like they buried him in the ground. But after, I was always looking for him. For some reason, I thought I'll meet him on the street somewhere. You might think I'm crazy, but I really thought I would. So I used to write him letters. And I thought, yeah, someday we're going to meet again. So I was just trying, this is one of the dreams. These animals would come and they dance with me, and they respected me, and they took care of me. So it was, this is why, one of the films I'm making now is about a dream I had. And I want, I should not tell this, but I want to, for people who have children with special needs, for instance, I want to give an example that those children sometimes have a hard time to express themselves, or it's hard to understand them. I want, whether it's the parents or someone who takes care of them, to start thinking of something they have that's a real gift. And I would be very curious to know what they're dreaming about. And that's what I'm working on the film right now. Because you have a tendency when somebody has special needs, you're always taking care, and I want them to start thinking they've got something beautiful too. And I think in their dreams, and I want to show the power of dreams. It can change your whole life. It can change when you feel so threatened. When you feel threatened, you can have a dream that's going to change all that feeling, totally. And this, I think there's a lot of power, and a lot of people dream and they don't pay attention of what that is. And you can be superstitious. Oh, this means this and this means that. But without analyzing the dream that way, I like to think that I have friends, and they're all animals. And I could sit here and tell you some of my dreams all night because I've had them for years, and I really am very thankful that I did have that, because when you're constantly beaten and you're ugly and you're dirty, your skin is not white, so you're dirty. You would go tell your mother to wash you. This was my life. But when I slept, man, I tell you, it was just beautiful. So this is the reason I tried to show a little bit. When all the leaves are gone, my mother, when my father died, she was totally devastated. And me, I just kept waiting for him. I thought he was going to come back, although I saw that they buried him. I tell you this, I was a child too, but your children too have their own mind, and if you listen, instead of always giving order, don't do this, don't go there, don't talk to him, children can teach you so much. If you just listen to them, what they feel, what they dream about, and hear things that to you perhaps it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. And I know that nobody was listening to me at that time, but in my dream, yes, I was taken care of.
Another question? You can just raise your hand, please. If there's any in the back. Alanis, I mean, again, looking at this program, we caught a glimpse of a sneak preview of the project that you're doing with Terrell Calder that's supported by the Glenn Gould Foundation, and you recently received quite a significant prize from them. And I'm always interested, I mean, someone like you who has achieved so much in their career and has had such a huge impact and has been recognized in these ways, I mean, how is that sense of achievement for you in terms of impacting your recognition of your legacy? How aware are you of the incredible legacy that you're leaving for so many people?
I don't much think that way, but I just keep on working. But I feel that, when I was 6 months, I was dying. I was in coma on my reserve in Odanak, and my mother wasn't there. And there was a doctor who came, and they told them, don't move her from that bed. She's going to live maybe a couple of hours or so. And an old aunt of my mother came in the room with a blanket. She wrapped me up, and she took me away. And my aunt was there and my uncle. They were outraged that she did that. I was not supposed to be moved. And she kept me for 6 months, and nobody knows what she did, but I'm alive. And I'm supposed to not be. So I feel I owe to life. It's just amazing. I had a horrible life as a child, but look, I've come out. Look what I've been able to do. I've managed to get support from people who had the power to help to do these things, and I just didn't want another child to go through what I've been through. These are the reasons. And because I'm living, I just turned 89 years old, and I'm not 90 yet. And it's, somebody said I was close to 90. It was insulting. I said, I'm only 89. Yeah. So I'm lucky, I'm healthy, I owe to life. Look, I've been given a life. And I work hard, yes, but I owe a lot, a big debt. And I'm going to work as long as I'm healthy. I'll be working, and it's not a sacrifice. I love it. And I'm very lucky because I get a lot of support at the film board for things I want to do. And it's the contrary than the first, 15 years that I was there. It wasn't easy. But when you believe in something and it's honest and it's just, nobody can stop you. And nobody's going to stop me until I can no longer walk around. Then I'll go and rock the babies in the hospital and sing them lullabies.
That's fantastic. Alanis, we love you so much. I love you so much. It's been such an incredible gift to know you as a friend, as a colleague, and to share this stage with you. And you're such a tremendous director, but you're also an accomplished producer and writer. And I remember a conversation that you had with Jesse Wente, I think, here on this stage, where you also talked about your fashion. And you're such a fashion icon to me, too. And he started off the question going, well, you know, Alanis, you love fashion. And she stopped him and she said, fashion loves me. And I always taken that to heart, and such a great line. But we're going to wrap up the conversation now. And so extend my thanks and gratitude to you again, Alanis, for sharing these films with us here at TIFF. There are 6 programs in total, which you can also watch online. Thank you all for joining us here in cinema and also online. And please join me in thanking Alanis Obomsawin.
Thank you.